In less than 2 months, President-elect Donald Trump will take the oath of office, though many are questioning how the commander-in-chief will also be the tweeter-in-chief. Evidence this morning, he warned companies against outsourcing jobs, saying wanting to sell their products, cars, AC units, etc., back across the border. This tax will make leaving financially difficult, but these companies are able to move between all 50 states with no tax or tariff being charged. Please be forewarned prior to making a very expensive mistake. The United States is open, according to the president-elect, for business.
Donald Trump back in his element, stirring up crowds of supporters just like he did during the campaign. Earlier today, he showed off more of his unconventional style, saying that airplane maker Boeing was charging too much for 2 new proposed Air Force One planes. First tweeting more than $4 billion, cancel order. Then saying,
I think it's ridiculous. I think Boeing is doing a little bit of a number. We want Boeing to make a lot of money, but not that much money.
Boeing says it's not sure where Trump got his $4 billion figure from. But speaking of money, Trump touted a new investment in the U.S. from Japan's SoftBank.
This is Masa of SoftBank from Japan, and he's just agreed to invest $50 billion in the United States and 50,000 jobs. And he's one of the great men of industry, so I just want to thank you very much.
Trump bragged that the investment came only because of his victory, but SoftBank is already a big U.S. investor, owning more than 80% of Sprint, and no details of this new deal were released.
President-elect Donald Trump has blasted Beijing's economic and military stances with a pair of tweets on Sunday. He said, "Did China ask us if it was okay to devalue their currency, heavily tax our products going into their country, or to build a massive military complex in the middle of the South China Sea? I don't think so." A spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry said it had no comment on what motivated the Trump team to make such tweets. Mr. Trump took to Twitter following his telephone conversation with Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen on Friday, a move that broke with decades of diplomatic protocol with China.
I think the conversation that happened this week with the president of Taiwan was a courtesy call. She reached out to the president-elect, and he took the call from the democratically elected leader of Taiwan. And
senior members of Mr. Trump's transition team had sought to play down concerns that this heralded a break from long-standing U.S. policy on China. China's foreign ministry said it had launched representations with the relevant parties in the U.S. Beijing's One China policy insists that the U.S. and other countries accept an elaborate pretense that Taiwan is part of One China and not an independent country. U.S. president-elects have traditionally played along with this, declining calls from Taiwanese leaders. Mr. Liu said China would definitely make clear our own position and attitude towards the parts of their policies that concern China. He added that the Taiwan issue has always been the most important and sensitive one in China-US relations, and that the One China policy is an important political precondition of healthy and stable China-US relations.
President-elect Donald Trump is Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Mr. Trump called into NBC's Today Show and said it was a great honor, but he didn't like the subheadline that says he is the president of the divided states of America.
Well, I think putting divided is snarky.
Among the revelations in the interview was that Mr. Trump has spoken to President Obama about potential Trump administration cabinet picks.
I take his recommendations very seriously, and there are some people that I will be appointing, and in one case have appointed, where he thought very highly of that person.
President-elect Donald Trump touching down in Indiana today to deliver an important message in person, telling hundreds of workers at the Carrier factory he just saved their jobs.
People are crying. I mean, they're all crying. They're so happy. They're going to have a great Christmas. That's most important.
The factory becoming a symbol of corporate greed with this video we told you about on World News Tonight in February. The moment executives informed workers they were eliminating 1,400 jobs.
To move production from our facility in Indianapolis to Monterrey, Mexico.
Trump saw it on the news and promised he wouldn't let that happen.
We're not going to let our jobs be taken away.
He says shortly after winning, he called Carrier CEO.
So I called Greg Hayes. I heard of him, but I never met him. And he picked up the phone, Mr. President-elect, sir, how are you? It's wonderful to win. You know, think if I lost, he wouldn't have returned my call.
Today, Carrier announcing it will keep around 1,100 jobs in Indianapolis, but not all of them, largely in return for $7 million in tax incentives facilitated by the state's governor, Vice President-elect Mike Pence. Critics now asking, will Trump go around the country handing out tax breaks to get other companies to stay? Senator Bernie Sanders saying Carrier took Trump hostage and won, adding the president-elect has signaled to every corporation in America that they can threaten to offshore jobs in exchange for business-friendly tax benefits and incentives. Carrier is owned by United Technologies, which has billion-dollar defense contracts with the federal government, which could be another reason they're happy to cut an early deal with the new president. President-elect Trump just wrapped up his announcement here at the Carrier plant. Some of the workers here are celebrating as they leave, but just down this street, a 7-minute drive from here, there's another plant here in Indianapolis that's shipping 350 jobs to Mexico. And at that factory tonight, those workers asking, will Donald Trump save our jobs as well?
I hope he saves every American job. I really do.
Trump wasn't able to save all the jobs at the Carrier plant. 600 are still going to Mexico. And Carrier's parent company is still planning to shutter another Indiana factory and send another 700 jobs across the border. Still, the president-elect says he's just sent a very loud message to companies who want to leave.
There will be consequences, meaning they'll be taxed very heavily at the border. If they want to leave, fire all their people, leave.
Chuck, is this true?
No, ma'am. When Carrier announced he closed down the whole facility in February, they announced at that point in time their research and development jobs, about 350 of them, were going to remain here in Indianapolis. Then when Mr. Trump got involved, what the actual number of jobs saved is 730 bargaining unit jobs, the workers of the union members, and another 70 office, supervisory, clerical workers from management. And what they're doing, they're counting in 350 some odd more that were never leaving this country at all. I think he's did a lot of negotiations, and I have likewise. And if you're dealing with people's livelihoods, you sure as the world ought to know what the numbers are.
You know, Carrier, obviously, as you know, had come out, right? They had their own statement, and they said they were retaining, just quoting there now, Chuck, retaining engineering and headquarters staff, preserving more than 1,000 jobs. The chairman of United Technologies, which of course owns Carrier, Gregory Hayes, also mentioned 1,100 jobs at that event with Trump. I mean, do you think the problem is actually with Carrier? They were giving him wrong numbers.
Well, you know, if you want to add up the research and development jobs, it is 1,100. But like I said earlier, those jobs never were leaving this country anyway. So they're going to have 1,100 jobs here in the city. But what nobody is mentioning is 550 people, excuse me, are losing their jobs.
I mean, what has it been like to have the president-elect of the United States, arguably one of the most famous people in the country, maybe the world, personally attack you?
To be quite honest, when I heard the tweet, I laughed. And the guy that was telling me what it was, he said, I'm serious, and I laughed some more. I mean, my wildest imagination, I never would have expected that. And hell, it don't affect me one way or another. I've had a lot more people say that I have respected a lot more, say things, and Trump's, you know, I'll give the man credit. He's got some spunk in him, so.
On the campaign trail, Donald Trump easily shrugged aside his business interests, insisting the allure of the White House was far more important.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It's nice when you don't have to care, but I don't care. What I care about is making America great again. That's much more important. It's much more important.
But now the president-elect is showing little sign of stepping back from his corporate calling. In yet another potential conflict of interest, sources say Trump will remain an executive producer for NBC's Celebrity Apprentice, even as he serves as President of the United States. Trump hosted 14 seasons of The Apprentice, but in 2015, NBC said it was cutting ties with Trump after his controversial remarks about undocumented Mexican immigrants.
I have a big chunk of that show, and I could have done it for another 5 years if I wanted to. But I don't know. There's a lot of pressure on Arnold because Arnold's going to have a hard time. You know, it was the #1 show, and I did it for 14 seasons. I have a big stake in it.
Now one of Trump's top advisors, Kellyanne Conway, is defending Trump's decision, saying he'll remain involved in the show in his free time.
Were we so concerned about the hours and hours and hours spent on the golf course of the current president? I mean, presidents have a right to do things in their spare time or their leisure time.
Of course, Trump and other Republicans were sharply critical of the time President Obama spent on the links.
And he gets on this plane, flies to Hawaii. He's there for a long time. Golf, 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 more. Learning how to chip, learning how to hit the drive, learning how to putt. Oh, I want more.
Army-Navy game. In a sense, is this your unofficial debut as Commander-in-Chief?
No, it's just something I've wanted to see. It's beautiful. It's hopefully going to be a good game. But really just something I want to see. It's the armed forces the way I look at it, and I love and respect the armed forces. I mean, it's going to be, I think we're going to have a good time.
You spent 5 years at the New York Military Academy, a boarding school, where you became the captain of cadets. What did you learn there about military discipline?
Well, I learned that I respected it, and I respect people in the military, and I always have, at least since I've been there. And we had military people there. We had drill sergeants and colonels, and we actually had a general, and I always respected those people. And I learned that at a young age. They're terrific.
Then it was on to the stadium for the game. First, a meeting with a group of Army cadets and Navy midshipmen.
Who's going to win? Who's going to win? One picture. Here we go.
And when he appeared in public to greet the crowd from a balcony, he received a big ovation.